David.
Mike, David Moore, Dallas Morning News. Just talk about the challenges that Minnesota's offense present to you going into this game.
Minnesota offense playing very well. I like their balance. You see their ability to obviously start with the run and the movements that come off of that. So very well coordinated. You look at the South Scout, they obviously do that, very well coached. So, the perimeter players, you look at receiver, tight end, quarterback, running back. So, they got very good distribution of talent and experience. So, it's an excellent challenge for our defense.
Todd Archer with ESPN. What do you anticipate? I know it's just a walkthrough, but what do you anticipate from Zeke today? And how does 2 games in 4 days impact his ability?
We're really, focusing on all the guys coming out of last week's game to, come back and work today. So, Zeke will be part of it today.
And the 2 games in 4 days, does that play whether he goes this week?
If he's ready to play this week, we're going to play him.
Clarence Hilford, Star Telegram. You signed Callaway and McKinley. Can you just talk about what they bring, what they still have?
Yeah, definitely. Going back to training camp, we had a chance to meet with Tack up in Oxnard. So just really glad he's here. Obviously he's had a path of recovery and had the opportunity in Tennessee and LA. So obviously has experience in Dan's system. And a number of guys that he's worked with over in Atlanta. So I think he's a great fit for us. And Callaway's a young man that I've obviously had a chance to watch from afar in Cleveland. Is really coming off of a kind of a rehab type situation, and so he had a good workout last week. So and also Brock, we signed a center too. So it's always good to add players to your program.
What was the injury Callaway was recovering from?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know if it was his knee. I think it might have been his knee.
Mike Jory, Yahoo Sports. You mentioned a little bit about the Vikings offense. How different is the offense from last year, and in what ways?
There's some similarities, clearly. It starts with the outside zone in the keep game, and you got Gary Kubiak and now O'Connell as far as his experiences but they're all different. I think they did do a really good job stressing your defensive structure and adjustments. So. They're playing on time. They're in sync. I like the tempo that they play with. I think Kurt's playing at a high level. He's been very consistent all year. So Jefferson is, obviously the catch he had just utterly ridiculous, but his numbers are, extremely high. He's having a great year. So, and then obviously TJ is a nice addition for them. We've already competed against him, so it's a good offense.
Hey, Coach. Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. Last week you said that James Washington will probably need another week because of the way the schedule is going. Is the addition of Callaway a signal that he might need more time, or was it just things?
No, they're totally opposite. Yeah, there's no correlation between Callaway and James.
Is Washington still on pace to be
Yeah, he's getting better. It's getting better. I think it's just a matter of when. Yeah.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Today, some of your players talked about being angry and that kind of thing, something similar like you talked about on Monday. How do you make sure they channel that in the right direction?
I don't have a concern about that. Actually, we just had a leadership council meeting and talked about probably some of the things that you talked about in your discussions in the media. So, I believe in the principle, of conflict is good because it brings resolve and resolution to situations. And frankly, talked about it with the team today, and our leaders in the locker room. I think it's just a healthy opportunity to grow.
Michael Gelfin, Dallas Morning News. Deron Bland's personality is kind of more quiet, easygoing. In your experience, what's the challenge of getting strong communication on the field out of someone who that might not feed into his natural temperament?
Yeah, I can see why you asked the question, but he has been as focused and as detailed as a rookie that I've seen. You go back to we talked about him in the rookie orientation. When he came in, was so impressive just the way he picked it up. It's just like anything. Your best communicators are your most confident individuals, and confidence comes through repetition, education, and repetition, and really over and over. So I think I'm not as worried about, you know, his personality, because I mean he's I don't see it as a challenge for him at all.
Scott.
Skyler Dixon with the AP. How do you think CeeDee's handled the number one role this year, and how does a game like last week help in the growth in that role?
I think he's handled it, frankly, just the way he's done everything since he arrived here. I'm super competitive, loves football. I think he's incredibly tough. So yeah, I mean, CeeDee just wants to be great. So he doesn't change. That's a huge asset. He's the same personality every day, same work ethic. So I think he's, you know, I thought he had a very productive game. I thought, you know, it was an excellent game based on numbers, but, you know, we both know that there's a little more out there for him. So, and he's made the right stuff, because, you know, like I said, he wants it. So I think he's handled it very well.
Anthony Brown, you've said in the past, doesn't get a whole lot of credit outside of the building. What do you think his presence, though, does mean when he's on the field, and then what his void means when he's not?
Well, I think Anthony, I mean, if you just look at his body of work, you know, last year and this year, when, you know, when you play a position that you usually don't get talked about, as, you know, only when the other side makes big plays. So, yeah, I think clearly, you know, you look at Anthony in that game, his injury, you know, was definitely something that, you know, we take a hard look at, you know, as coaches, and because we didn't handle it as well. That's for sure.
What do you mean by that?
Well, just the production that they were to have, and, you know, we had some things, you know, particularly in schematically adjustments. You know, your younger players don't get all the reps, and just wasn't as clean communication. Some things you've already touched on.
Mike, with Dak, where do you think his timing is? It's week 10 of the season, but for him, it's week 5.
Yeah, good point. I think he's practiced very well. You know, I think sometimes, you know, I always take a lot of pride in being on top of the little things. But, you know, when we got on the plane to go up to Green Bay, you know, you had the same, you know, pretty much the same stewardess on your charter flights, and number one was like, oh wow, we haven't seen you guys for over a month. You know, so I mean, you know, you haven't played on the road. I don't think Dax has played a road game, especially a road outside game, and since Philadelphia last year. So I mean, just all those little things. Is an excuse? No, but I mean, these are just, you know, coming on our 2 worst games this year. You know, as far as penalties, and you know, the mental challenge has been coming out of bye weeks. And you know, I'm talking about the bye week going into Tampa, and the bye week going into Green Bay. So, you know, and statistics tell you that. I mean, we talked about it as a team on Monday when we came back from it, that we got to really get back into, get our mind speed, pace our operation, get back on the horse, and get ready to play, you know, full speed. Because, you know, there's a lot of benefits for being off a week. But, you know, one thing about when you are on a 4, 5, 6, 7 week run, you know, your process is revving, you know, and that's why we moved the schedule today to make sure we can get back after it full speed, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, going into Minnesota, and then we'll do our Thanksgiving schedule next week.
How did you feel about the run-pass distribution on Sunday? Tilted more toward the passing game than we've seen this season?
Yeah, no, I definitely know the numbers. So, you know, I think, you know, we went into the game, you know, we wanted to be as close to balance as possible. You know, I think when you look at the most important quarter, you know, because, you know, I've gone back and looked at it, the run-pass ratio, you know, because, you know, they were driving in the third quarter and, you know, scored in the beginning of the fourth quarter to make it a 7-point game. So, you know, unfortunately, that last drive is, you know, those 2 runs were taken away, you know, so, you know, but I count those because we called them. So, I mean, so I think you have some of that tilts it, and, you know, ideally, if you want to play mathematics criticism, yeah, 3 or 4 more runs would probably been perfect. But I think you look at those 2 at the end of the game, because the way the game was called there, you know, and frankly, I'm reminded Kellen of that, because I think we all have tendencies, and I think we're doing a much better job, especially him, as being in tune with you know, Sel Scott, not only in games, but because we all do it after games. So, but yeah, you know, you always want to have a few more runs. I mean, I don't think I've ever called a game where I said, boy, I wish I'd have ran it 3 or 4 more times.
Luke Gifford obviously was highly productive on special teams Sunday.
5 tackles.
Yeah.
Well, that's like important, right?
No doubt.
Yeah. I've never seen a guy have 5 tackles, so I mean, on special teams in one game.
He has another stat, as many offensive snaps as he does defensive this season. What's the guy, what does his path look like to more opportunity on defense, or is it just his role?
Man, I'll tell you, you got me. That's not in my self, Scott, so I was not aware of that. So good job. I think it really, I think it's a compliment. I think it points to his flexibility. I think he's a heck of a linebacker. He's instinctive. He's really grown on me since the first year. You know, I think he doesn't get I'm glad he's on our team. I'll say that. I don't think he is recognized for, you know, when the plays that he makes. I mean, I think he's a dynamic special teams player. So I think he's a much better athlete than I think people realize.
Mike, Haley said in DallasCowboys.com, Michael Gallup had a non-contact injury in that game on Sunday. Just how is he doing, and I guess how are you trying to work him more into the offense so he can be more effective?
Michael's doing well. Michael will take all the reps today, so he's back.
John Michaud, The Athletic. Is there any correlation that you see between the way the defense is played with Dak at quarterback and with Cooper Rush? It just seems like 3 out of those 4 games that Dak started, the defense hasn't been as productive. Is there anything mentally that you could possibly see where they play a little bit differently because of the different style that their quarterback's playing?
Well, that's a good point. I don't see it that way. I think, you know, so much of what we do is, you know, situational and you know, focused on who you're playing. You know, so I don't think it matters. You know, I think during the week, or, you know, when you're talking about it, you may feel like you have to, you know, have a bigger responsibility. But yeah, I don't see a correlation there.
How much will Barr do this week if he can do anything?
I mean, he's going to work today, so I'll have a better idea, you know, how he's going to move. But my understanding is he's in pretty good shape as far as having a chance to play on Sunday.
Just talking to players on, you know, just come back to the run defense for a minute. They keep talking about being out of their gaps. Is that a scheme thing or individual thing, you know, on the run defense, being out of their gaps?
Well, we don't scheme them out of their gaps.
Okay, I'm just, well, you do stunts. I'm just saying, you just stunts.
Oh, so you're saying stunts,
Yeah.
the movement.
Yeah, the movement, some of the movements.
I think, I mean, hey, when the team runs for over 200 yards, you know, we damn well need to answer questions about it. So, hey, we recognize that. So, you know, as far as, you know, being out of the gaps, and you know, obviously it's just like anything that, you know, we had a missed assignment, and it, you know, and Jones, you know, hit the hole, you know, bounced it, and was a huge play in the game. So, and I think, like anything, and rightfully so, you know, when you get in these type of games, you know, there's always going to be a play. It's going to come down to a play here, a play there that you know, affects the outcome. So, you know, a lot's been talked about, and I like the fact that they've talked about it, you know, immediately amongst themselves, and we'll be better for it. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't like it happened every play. You know, if anything, where we need to be better is, you know, we had more issues in the C gap and setting the edge. You know, so and that's what we got to focus on, and because we're gonna. You know, Green Bay was primarily, you know, outside zone, and, you know, as far as stretching, as far as the way they were attacking us, and, you know, that's a starting point for Minnesota. So that's the reality of how we're looking at it, because, you know, we know they're going to try to challenge us in a similar way.
Sure.
How is Anthony Brown doing, and do you expect him to?
Yeah, Anthony's doing good. You know, saw him in here yesterday, making progress. So, I mean, he's still in the protocol. So, based on the way we're practicing today, he'll participate.
I remember from the draft, and you all did not expect CeeDee to be there, and he was in 2020. Jefferson goes a few picks later. How much did you all talk about him? How impressed were you with him back then?
You know, CeeDee was my favorite of the group, and he was right there after. I mean, I love the way the guy played, because see, I like guys that can play inside and outside, you know, and they do something else too. Like CeeDee, you can put him in the backfield. And Jefferson, Destron High School, I mean, I just know the kid's background, multi-sport athlete. You know, I'm not surprised at all he's having the success that he's having. So we were very, very impressed with him, and we thought we had him higher than most people on the board. So when he went, after that was no surprise. So, I mean, he's one of those guys you sit there and hope, because, after you draft the CD, you're hoping he falls a little bit so you can try to have a chance to go up and get him too. But that obviously didn't last long.
All righty.
Hell of a player. Thanks.
Thank you.